Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee Talk on this March 2nd, very, very windy morning. So we apologize if we go offline or things go off the rails today because it's an interesting day and we've little technology stuff going on and whatever. But good morning, welcome, and thanks for joining us. We are your hosts, Southborough Youth and Family Services. My name is Shannon Kaniman, and I'm the program coordinator. And here this morning, we have Megan Island, who is our assistant director. Good morning, Megan.
Morning.
And in place of Sarah this morning, we have Christina McCarthy, who's our administrative assistant. Good morning, Christina.
Morning.
Morning. And our special guest today is Lori Ratchelous from Soul Friends, which is a place where she does animal assisted therapy. And we'll learn
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good morning, Lori. So I don't know, let's start off with a coffee toast. If everybody has a coffee cup.
Cheers.
Cheers. Wow. So we all made it through the night, all that wind and craziness.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I lost power a couple times, so
Wow.
Fingers crossed I don't lose power this morning.
Yeah.
I was a little worried to wake up and check to make sure I had all my trees in place and not landing on the house or on our barn at all. So it was beautiful.
Right. Yeah. Seems like it's settling down a little bit, which is good. Because,
Absolutely.
I mean, it would add to the flavor if a deer comes flying through my window, but just hoping that doesn't happen.
That could be fun as well.
Might be, could be.
And it goes along with the theme for today.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So something that people may not know about Southborough Youth and Family Services is that all of us that work there are animal lovers, and we all have pets. I have a rescue cat named Sharu. He's an orange cat, and Megan and Christina have pets too. Yeah.
I have 3 cats, so.
And
none of which are around. I tried to keep them for this episode, but they did not want to stay in here, so I let them go.
And I have a 13-year-old basset hound named Mulligan, and he sleeps 90% of the day. So probably in a sunny spot, hanging out at home.
Love it.
Beautiful.
Love it. Love it. And I mean, it goes without reason that we know that pets are so good for us. Not everybody feels that way. I have a friend that her son since birth pretty much he has an animal phobia, and he's afraid of gerbils as well as, parakeets and dogs and whatever. So not everybody is an animal lover, but for those of us who are, we know even without reading the science how good they are for us, like all of the good chemicals that they release in our brains and just how relaxing they feel, and that they just make us feel secure and safe and happy and all of that. But what we're talking about today isn't necessarily, it's not just it's fun to have a pet around. We're actually going to talk about how animals can assist in therapy. So let's jump in and maybe start asking some questions. And Lori, we were going to ask before we even get into what it means to do animal assisted therapy. Tell us about you. Tell us about your background and tell us about Soul Friends.
Sure. So I am a licensed clinician. I have been a social worker for approximately 21 years. Most of my time, my professional life has been working as an oncology social worker in a hospital. And I started though with Soul Friends back in 2013. And I wasn't familiar with them. Our CEO lived 2 streets over. I was just doing some Googling one day. I have a love for animals, always have. When I was little, my mom will always tell the story. When I was little, you know, the kids on my street used to have little strollers with their dolls in it, and I would just put one of my cats and just wheel them over the street instead. And so I also run a cat rescue as well. So I won't share with you the number of cats I have right now, but I noticed that there was this place called Soul Friends, animal assisted therapy. And I thought, my God, for my profession of being a social worker therapist and my love for animals, how cool is that? So 2013, I started with Soul Friends. Shortly before that, we had the Sandy Hook tragedy. Everyone in the world wanted to help the Sandy Hook community. Everyone in the world. There was an organization out in Colorado called Freedom Service Dogs. They wanted to gift 2 already trained therapy dogs to two therapists in the state of Connecticut who would be willing to work up in the Sandy Hook community. So I applied, went through the process, and was gifted my current therapy dog, Nutmeg, who's been with me for a little over 8 years. We did a little bit of work up in Sandy Hook, not much. By the time Nutmeg came to me, there was already established therapy dog teams, and the community was pretty inundated with resources, which was fabulous, but adding another layer could be stressful for the community. So they were well aware that my services were available to them at any point. But in the meantime, Nutmeg started working with me at Soul Friends. And so that's how our journey began. The 2 of us started working together as a team, and we have grown. We have learned from one another tremendously. And I will share the story of how when I was gifted this therapy dog, here I was thinking, she's already trained therapy dog. Woohoo! My job is easy, no worries. I'm getting this perfect dog, and this is going to be fantastic. She came to me, we started working. So mistake number 1, we started working together fairly shortly after she arrived in Connecticut. We both liked each other. She thought I was kind of cool. I fed her, gave her a warm home, played with her. I thought she was pretty cool, but we hadn't bonded yet. And so we didn't know one another. And this is a dog who, a rescue dog, did her basic training in prison, and then went into her training program. So she'd been bounced around a lot. She had gone into 3 homes prior to landing at this facility in Wyoming, where she was then trained in the prison system, one of the prisons out there. But soon after, I realized that she and I needed additional training, because why wasn't she perfect? And she was, I'm sure, looking at me saying, why isn't she perfect? What the heck is wrong with her? So, and how we've grown in our 8.5 years together is remarkable. And she's not a perfect therapy dog, and that's what I love about her, because none of us are perfect. So she works fabulous with the children that we work with. So that's a little background.
Thank you so much for sharing, Lori. Could you kind of tell us a little bit of what is animal assisted therapy?
Sure.
Big one.
So animal assisted therapy, you know, it's an alternate therapy. It does wonders for people, especially for children. If you think about children coming in to work with a therapist, most children don't don't seek therapy because they say at age 7 or 8. Granted, there are some, but most don't say, "Hey, mom, I want to see a therapist. I'm kind of going through some stuff." So it's mostly the parents the school recommendation, doctor's recommendation, that they seek therapy for a variety of different reasons. Children coming in to see an adult can be really scary for them, but a child coming in to see and work with an adult that has a dog present is a little less scary. They become human. Oh, you have a dog. Okay. So that's kind of cool. And it often acts as a bridge between the therapist and the client and the child in my situation, since I work with children. And so, and they often can transfer their feelings onto an animal, which is fabulous. So instead of them saying to me, Lori, I feel sad today because X, Y, and Z happened, I might know about what X, Y, and Z was because mom kind of gave me the heads up. But if we talk about it in a way of, well, let's talk about Nutmeg and some things that make her sad, they can transfer their feelings onto the animal. It's much safer that way. And so it's just, it's an alternate therapy that can work wonders for children for a variety of different reasons. And mostly it helps kids to open up and just feel safer with the person that they're sitting with. So they're not this scary adult. They're this less scary adult with maybe a cute dog or cat or horse or guinea pig that's present.
Lori, can you tell us a little bit about the different roles and the differences between animal assisted therapy versus an emotional support animal, or even maybe a service dog, and how animal assisted therapy, the role animal assisted therapy plays in that?
Sure. So many people get confused by the roles of a service dog, a therapy, and I'm using dog. So service dogs, therapy dog, and an emotional support dog / animal. And I'm going to read off just a little bit, just so that I have the verbiage of the correct for a couple of these. But so for a service dog, which is recognized by the ADA, and it's only a dog that the ADA recognizes for service animal. And so it's a service dog is specifically trained to help somebody with a disability, whether it's a seeing eye dog, whether it's a dog who's trained to detect blood sugars going down or up for diabetics, a dog trained for epilepsy, PTSD, things of that nature. They're very specifically trained. It takes hours and hours and lots of money for the training. These dogs have very specific roles. And a therapy dog are dogs that are trained and are typically registered through an organization. In my case, Nutmeg was trained through Pet Partners, which is a nationally recognized organization. And so they are invited to come into schools. They're invited to come into hospitals, libraries, but they do have specific training. And so you're looking for a dog that is calm. You're looking for a dog that doesn't bark, jump, react negatively. And that we do in the training. So we want to make sure that the dog feels comfortable in these situations, in these certain situations. An emotional support animal is an animal that is your animal that provides you company. So for, Megan, you have cats. So you could be having a really bad day and you know that you can come home from work and sit on the couch and, oh my gosh, just petting my cat really relaxes me. It's just a great feeling. And that's basically what it is. There's no training whatsoever. So it's just an animal that provides you with, it's just a therapeutic benefit for you. So they're not invited into the community. They're not invited. They're not recognized by the ADA. Can you get your cat registered to be a therapy cat? Absolutely. Absolutely. You can go through the training. But an emotional support animal just does not have specific training. So they're not allowed out in public. And so that's something to be always cautious about, because there's, unfortunately, you're able to get vests and badges for your animals that say emotional support, therapy, service, and that puts animals who are specifically trained at risk with their owners. And so I always like to provide that little piece of education. And so therapy animals, they're specifically trained. They're specifically trained. Nutmeg and I did Canine Good Citizen, which is a 6-week course. So we did basic training. And we adopted a dog last year, and he's in the process of going through the steps to become a therapy animal, a therapy dog right now. So I looked for a calm demeanor when I was adopting a dog. So I adopted a little bit of an older dog. So I was looking for that calm demeanor. We went through basic training. We're continuing basic training. We will then go through Canine Good Citizen, which is a 6-week course that prepares you for the therapy dog training. Therapy dog training, and I'll back up. You do have trainers that are specific in working with you to provide specific training to become a therapy dog. So they're going to be very honest with you if you say, you know what, I don't think that this is going to be the right fit. Then we go into therapy dog training, and we do the therapy dog. We do the 6-week course, and then we do a test to be able to demonstrate that we're going to be a good working team together. So there is very specific training that goes into becoming a therapy animal. It takes a lot of patience, and it takes approximately 9 months to a year to really to go through the whole training process. Hope that answered your question.
Laura actually answered a couple of my questions that I had about training as well. I wanted to see, where do you receive the training, and can any animal work in that setting?
So we went through a training facility. You want to look for a training facility that has a pretty good that has a good reputation, and that does positive reinforcement with the dogs specifically. And so there's lots of training facilities out there. I specifically looked for a training facility that offered Canine Good Citizen and also therapy dog training. So these trainers will be with me for basic training, Canine Good Citizen, and therapy dog training. We go through that whole process. And so, like I said, it takes approximately 9 months to do. Can any animal be a therapy animal? I guess yes and no. So we work with horses, right? So we have actually registered horses. We work with we have a guinea pig in our practice. We have a cat in our practice. We have a rabbit in our practice. It's about the demeanor. Now, pet partners will list animals that they don't accept or don't recognize as a therapy animal. So I believe some reptiles are part of that. And so there's a listing on there of animals that's not recognized. But, as far as dogs, and people will say all the time, well, you can't have I like to use the example of, you can't have a pit bull, right? That's one dog you can't have as a therapy dog. And that is the biggest misconception. And we have one in our practice that puts most of our other dogs to shame. She is a gorgeous, just turned 3 years old today, pit bull, Fiona, who is phenomenal. She's just a love. So any animal with training. And you have to listen to the trainer, I always tell people. So don't force it if they feel that it's a job that your dog doesn't want to do. Don't force them to do something they don't want to do. It won't be successful.
Can you tell us a a little bit about where animal assisted therapy typically takes place? Does it have to be in a therapist's office or does it take place in other locations?
Yeah, so it can be in other locations. And so we have 3 office locations, but we also utilize a barn. We rent a barn space clearly for our horse. People do think because we do advertise that we have equine therapy, they are not in our office. So not to be super cool, but so we do have a barn for our equine program. But I also run groups in our community. So I have a contract with a school. I run groups for the past 4 or 5 years in a public school, and two days a week I'm down there running groups throughout the year. And then when we often will get a grant, we will offer an 8-week course to students in some of the other schools and into our community programs right now. So right now we're actually looking to start up an 8-week program in the town of Meriden, working with sort of the inner city kids right now that may not have an opportunity to work with animals in this kind of setting. And so yes, to answer your question, it really can be in a variety of different places that you can do something like that. And then you can also, you can bring your dog. So you can do animal assisted therapy in a hospital, in a library. You don't have to be a therapist to do that. So you can bring your dog wherever. My dog, when I worked at the hospital, that was not her forte. She was not a hospital dog. And, we did it a few times and it just wasn't her thing. But there are tons of people who go out and do bring their dogs that are registered therapy dogs into hospitals and libraries. It's just we happen to be licensed clinicians that are very specific working with therapy animals. So it's a specialty that we have, and we've had specific training for that as well, not just our Masters in Social Work or Licensed Marriage and Family or LPC. We also have additional training.
I had a question about, I know that you talked a lot about the children that you work with. Who would benefit from animal assisted therapy?
So the answer to that, it's kind of a broad answer, and in the sense of, would anybody, would anyone benefit? And it depends on what the goals are. I can say specifically working with kids, do I see the benefit? Yes, because I see them opening up. I see the way kids transfer their feelings onto animals in a way that they may not be able to otherwise. And so, but adults as well. We work with adults who have, not we as our organization, but I know therapists that work on providing some animal assisted therapy to adults with post-traumatic stress disorder, and having the animal present there helps them tremendously. So I think it all depends on the person, what the goal is, et cetera. And we work with, Shannon, I heard you say that you had a friend that works, that has a child that's really afraid of animals. We do a lot of work with kids around that. And so, the exposure therapy in a really sort of unique setting that we offer. So, yeah, I hope that answered your question, Christina.
Thank you.
Lori, you've mentioned Nutmeg a couple times, your dog that you work with. Could you give us some examples of some of the work that Nutmeg does with clients?
Sure. So one of she is in the room right now. I asked her to come sit with me on the couch, and she chose the sunny chair. So, she's not technically on duty yet working. So I have to give her that. So she, for instance, if I'm working with a child that has some impulse control issues, right? So we see a lot of that with kids with impulse control. if I sit there and I'll talk to a child about, why is it not good to dart in traffic, or why is it not good to react to a situation negatively, pushing another child, or they may not completely understand it. So I utilize nutmeg. This is one of my favorite things that we do, is working on the impulse control. So I'll have nutmeg in a sit position, and I'll ask the kids to do this, but I'll demonstrate first for them so they understand and they feel comfortable with it. I'll put the treat on my knee. Nutmeg has to be in the sitting position, staring at me, and she has to be focused on my face and my eye, and has to have eye contact with me. And so once she does that, when she's sitting, she's looking right at me, I give the release word of enough, and then she can get her cookie. I don't want her to react before. I want her to focus on me. So maybe that focus to the kids indicates that's one full deep breath. Mm-hmm. And so we work on boundary setting. We work on setting boundaries in our personal space as well. We have hula hoops. You walk into our office, we have tons of hula hoops. First things parents see are the hula hoops. Do you guys do hula hooping here? We can if we want. I mean, sometimes we've had fun and put them on and had a great time. But we use that as the personal space. This is Nutmeg's personal space. This is my personal space, and this is you as the client's personal space. And especially with kids who are going through the process of adoption, I use the Nutmeg story. And we talk about how she may have felt leaving her mom and going into a foster situation, and then now living with a new mom or a new dad or whoever it may be. How do you think she might be feeling? They can transfer their feelings that way so much easier than saying, how do you feel right now? It's not safe for them. It's not safe for them, but it's safer for them to say, Nutmeg feels afraid. Nutmeg is nervous, but excited. And so all great and different, unique techniques, ways that we utilize the animals into our practice.
This is such an interesting topic. And as usual, like, we can go on for another hour talking about this. Every week this happens to us. So I was going to ask another question, but I think what we're going to do is maybe we'll put some information in the comments about this. Might pique some people's interest and say, this sounds like it's for me. How do I do this? So we'll give you some direction on how you can find someone, what you should be looking for. Yeah, so thank you so much for coming on today, Lori.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and for showing interest in animal-assisted therapy. I'm always pleased to be able to provide education to future therapists, anyone who's interested in this profession. So
fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we will be back next week. We'll be back on March 9th, and we're going to have resident Jennifer Drohan on with us, and she's going to be talking to us it's going to be a 2-part series, and she's going to be talking to us about emergency pediatric mental health services. And Jennifer has firsthand experience utilizing these services, so we'll be discussing that experience with her. Is in part 1, and talking about experiencing psychiatric emergencies and what services may be available to families to support them when they reach that point. So we hope we see you then. And until then, have a great week, everyone.